Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk about one of the strangest phenomenons we see in the whole so-called fitness world today, and that's this whole thing going on with Synthol, which is a site enhancement oil that's become very, very popular. And let's talk about the different aspects of it. And I think it becomes very, very important for us to discuss this as a topic and the extremism that it can lead to, because we have other fitness YouTubers who, in one case, not only uses it on camera and shows it to everyone, but who also promotes its use and sells it as an actual product. Furthermore, we have a couple of other fitness YouTubers who very clearly, when you look at their proportions, use a pretty large amount of it in at least one case, and in another case uses a smaller amount of it, but it's definitely noticeable due to their overall shape and proportions that they are absolutely using it. And because so many professional bodybuilders who for some reason get worshipped or put up on a high pedestal by many people in the online fitness world, which again, I'm not going to judge in this particular video, that aspect of it, but they do get placed on a high pedestal, and Synthol and other forms of site enhancement have widespread use in the upper echelons of bodybuilding, and many of them use very, very large amounts of it, and virtually all of them use some type of site enhancement. Now, for those who aren't understanding what Synthol actually is, Synthol is a mixture of MCT oil, which is medium chain triglycerides, with a little bit of alcohol to keep it sterile, and lidocaine to numb the pain from it. And what it is it is an injectable muscle implant. And the problem with that is that obviously this is a risky procedure for someone to subject themselves to. It's completely legal. It has no legal aspect to it. It's not banned. It's not illegal, anything like that. But it is high risk because you're taking an oil and injecting it into your body. So one of the biggest problems you have with it is that it can lead to abscesses and infections in the body because you're injecting large amounts of oil into your muscles repeatedly, and so that it carries an inherent risk with it. But there's also other risks that people aren't aware of with it, and this has been found several cases of this medically I've seen over the years, to where someone who used it for even short periods of time, the oil in there, the medium chain triglycerides, tend to get encapsulated. That's one of the reasons that guys like to use it, because it has really long-term effects, because once the body encapsulates that oil, when it can't metabolize it easily, which is part of the thing with medium chain triglycerides, they're harder for the body to metabolize. Once it encapsulates it, it can form a small cyst around it, and it can take many, many years to break down. And in some cases, it forms a hard cyst around it that can be very large, and there have been cases of golf ball up to softball size cysts removed from it, because sometimes once it encapsulates, it gets really hard and it pulls away a little bit from the muscle and forms a very large cyst. And in some cases, that cyst continues to grow as it further encapsulates over the years. So you can end up with something that is actually an inch or two larger in diameter than it originally was, and it becomes permanent, and it can be a very serious source of reduced aesthetics. But it also, because you've got a big encapsulated chunk of oil there, can risk other problems being associated with it. It can cause other problems in the body and other health risks just by being present there. So the only way to deal with that then is to surgically remove it. And obviously surgically removing a large mass like that from your muscles, particularly little smaller muscles like your biceps, triceps, deltoids, things like that, can be very problematic. It can lead to more permanent scar tissue. And scar tissue is the other issue with it anyways. This stuff over time tends to build up scar tissue, which can again become permanent inside those muscles. It can misshape them. And that happens with people who site enhance with anything, including even anabolics, or who just put them in their regular places repeatedly over time. Scar tissue can accumulate over the years, and it's not real muscle. But when we're dealing with some of these people, there's tons and tons of photos and videos on the internet now of people who have built up their physiques and their muscle mass using Synthol as the primary method. And these people are the truly scary ones to observe, because these people have such a horrific body image disorder that they're willing to construct a physique entirely of oily injectable implants that carry a very, very high risk. And one has to wonder about the mentality that goes into that, and the degree of mental illness and the degree of body image dysmorphia that goes into someone doing that. And the thing is, there's so many of them, we can find dozens and dozens of different people who've done this on the internet, and some of them have even become quasi-famous in their own right. such as Greg Valentino, who is an older individual who's been in the iron game a really, really long time. And he was also featured in a little documentary called The Man Whose Arm Exploded, because he got such massive infections from his site enhancements that he got an enormous abscess in his arm that ruptured one day. So you have him, and then another one that I've seen pop up recently who's gotten famous in the UK is a guy by the name of Tiny Iron, who I even watched on a TV show. And it was really ironic because it was like a little medical short clip on a TV show talking about muscle mass and muscle fibers, and they were talking about the muscle fibers in his arm. And I remember looking at that saying, does anyone honestly believe that this guy has muscle in his arms? I mean, he does, obviously some, but he's got massive amounts of synthol. That's just oil and scar tissue in his arm. It's not even muscle. And then another man supposedly won the Guinness Book of World Records for having the largest biceps in the world, a gentleman by the name of Mustafa Ismail. And again, we have to wonder, why does the mainstream media even promote this? Are these people so ignorant that they can't look at these people and tell that actually isn't muscle, that these are just injections and some sort of side enhancements they put into their body? It doesn't look real. And that's one of the worst aspects of this, is that when we then see the media itself, or the Guinness Book of World Records, giving these people attention, it encourages this dangerous behavior. And I think those of us who know anything about this have some obligation to at least try to explain to these media outlets and groups like that that promote this sometimes, that, hey, you're actually promoting people inject fake muscle by injecting oil into their body, and you're actually pretending like they have muscle from it, and talking about having the biggest biceps or featuring them on a show or on the news or a Guinness Book of World Records. You're encouraging extremely self-destructive behavior, and it's not even actual muscle. They're complete fakes. And I think a lot of people would say, hey, how do we get to this point? What has happened in training or the iron game to where people have gotten to the point to where you get so many people who are doing this and think it's acceptable to do so? Well, it's multifold in nature. Number one, I think when we put this massive focus upon size, and in the industry and the community, we try to promote to people that, hey, they need to get as big as possible and more muscle mass is better, it's already going to predispose people to take any shortcuts they can to get bigger muscle mass at any cost. Then number two, you combine that with the body image disorders, because some of these guys, their body image disorders get massively fed by other people in the iron game. They see that going on, and then you slap in there that final little bit when you see a lot of bodybuilders promoting that it is acceptable to be weak as long as you're big, and they say silly things like, I don't care how much weight I can lift, I only care about how big I am. I don't want to be able to bench press 400 pounds, I just want to look like I can bench press 400 pounds. Well, the problem with that is that that doesn't work that way in most environments. That if you have a large amounts of real muscle, you're going to be strong by default no matter what. It's impossible to completely separate muscle and strength. There are drugs that can change that a little bit, those ratios. Training certain ways can make you slightly weaker and less strong at overall big real world functional movements, while you still gain muscle mass. But overall, a bigger muscle is always going to be a stronger muscle, until this synthol crap comes into the mix, because it can actually interfere with muscle growth directly. It can interfere with contractions and actually make muscles weaker than they actually would be with the amount of muscle mass they already have there when you put this stuff in. It can reduce their ability to contract. It actually is performance hindering. So it can affect that, and that's one of the reasons, one of several reasons why you do see some massive bodybuilders who are slightly weaker than you would expect them to be, can be because of all of this stuff getting in the way of their muscle contraction. They have all this crap in their bodies. But overall, it's a very dangerous practice, and it's something we need to be aware of as a community, and it's something that I think that we need to be more vocal against. And I think when we start promoting functional fitness, or what I've been calling now metafunctional training, people understand the importance of performance, and that form will follow function, and it shouldn't be the other way around. That the side effect of being fit and healthy and strong and lifting weights is that you'll get larger, more developed, more defined muscles. It shouldn't be looking at it the other way around, and it's that change in mentality that can help with this body image dysmorphia in some ways. When we put the focus upon fitness and strength and health, and take it away from, hey, I just want to try to look good or look a certain way, because looking good is a very, very subjective thing. And that's one of the things a lot of people who get caught up in the bodybuilding game don't realize, and they think, oh, they look great and this other person looks like crap. But in the real world, their competitive physique actually to the average person who they originally started lifting to get the attention of or for people to notice. They didn't do it because they wanted bodybuilders to notice. That's something that came later as a result of the culture. They wanted normal people to think they looked impressive. And the reality is oftentimes the person they might think looks like crap or doesn't have that great of a physique looks better to most people than they do with their competitive physique. And so when people say, oh, these guys on Synthol look like crap, they look awful, yeah, they do to pretty much everybody, including bodybuilders, but people need to realize that sometimes the competitive physique that's promoted in this community looks like crap to everybody also, and you need to look at it from that perspective. And I think, again, getting away from this idea of the extreme physique looking good is one way to help deter people from this really dangerous and self-destructive practice of using Synthol. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.